and we'll see if there's I guess at this point, is there public comment? Is there any public comment? Check if you're a member of the public, see if you're on mute. Anyways, I don't hear any public comments, so I guess the next thing is to approve the minutes of the June 5th meeting of the committee. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. This is Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda. And a second?
John,
Yeah.
we don't we don't have a quorum just yet. So
yeah.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem. We can come back to it when we have an additional member, but
Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
I'm going according to the screen. And so what's so we're going to do, that brings us to the update on the compensation study.
Yeah.
All right, so Eric, take it away.
Sure. I just kind of wanted to give everybody a heads up of what's on the what's coming around the bend. The BOC committee has authority over compensation at the Green Bank. We typically do a compensation study every 3 to 5 years to make sure that our compensation is in line with the market and in line with our compensation philosophy, which is to be internally equitable and externally competitive. So we typically benchmark ourselves every 3 to 5 years, review everybody internally, make sure that we have no bias, no unintended consequences to whatever is going on in the interim. Well, our most recent one was completed in 2021. We're pushing to do this this year closer to the 3-year mark rather than the 5-year mark as we've done in the past, just because there's been a period of high wage inflation. We want to make sure that we're still in line with the market. We've issued an RFP for a compensation consultant that closes in about a week and a half. We should have somebody picked ideally by the end of October. It gives them a couple of months to do some work, realizing that one of those is December. Our goal is to have to bring something to BOC in January for you guys to review in terms of if there are any updates to the compensation structure that we have now, our bands, so on and so forth. Or if there's not, we'll bring that as well. But depending on the speed of the consultant and how much they're able to get done, we may need a special meeting for this, which we would target probably the beginning of February. But just wanted to throw that out there for everybody. Just so when you're planning your ski vacations this winter. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
All right. That was all on that. Next item. So employee handbook revisions. So for the past several years, most of our handbook revisions have been much more governance policy related and have gone through ACG. But we have some that are much more employee benefit related, and those are more the purview of BOC. So we're here today with a couple of policy updates for the committee to review and opine on. The first is on telecommuting, and the second is on parental leave. With regards to telecommuting, basically, Green Bank positions will be placed within 4 categories based on the discretion of the president and CEO, the VP of Operations and Human Resources. The categories are essential in office, workplace flexibility, hybrid workplace, and part-time. And Joe will walk us through this in more detail in a minute. And on the parental leave, we're looking to give employees 8 weeks of paid leave following the birth of a child. or the placement of a child in connection with adoption or foster care. Joe, you want to kick off on the next slide?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Buonanata, Associate Director of Operations at the Connecticut Green Bank. Looks like the toolbar here is blocking the bottom of the screen. So, yeah, so the first of the two policy revisions is to our telecommuting policy. So as a standard for the Green Bank, we provide a flexible and customized telecommuting option for all of our employees. We saw that with the pandemic, staff were able to complete their roles and responsibilities remotely, largely without issue, but we're looking to, as folks have returned to work over the last several years post-pandemic, we are looking to put a little bit more parameters around the policy, and we've also grown quite a bit, and we're just looking to clarify. So how this would work, if approved, is we would go through all of the positions of the organization and classify them under one of these four categories. So I'll walk you through what the categories are. Starting with category one, what we're calling essential in-office. These are employees whose job responsibilities are largely focused on in-office activities, meaning that their primary functions need to happen in the office, with some opportunity for remote work. So we anticipate folks in this category to report into the office 3 out of the 5 days of the work week. Under category 2, workplace flexibility. This is the bulk of staff. These are employees whose job responsibilities require frequent in-person meetings and events throughout Connecticut. So this would be a 2-day in-office work week. Category 3 is hybrid workplace. These are, it's a smaller category of the staff. It's employees whose primary residence is greater than 60 miles from their assigned Green Bank home office, so either Hartford or Stamford, and whose position is deemed eligible for greater flexibility. And that decision was ultimately made by Brian Garcia, our president and CEO, Eric, our vice president of operations, the human resources team, and the person's manager. How that would work is that employees in that category would be expected to report to the office 45 days or 20% of the year. And we're looking to implement this on a yearly basis. So they would have to be in for 45 days. That accounts for things like required vacation usage, holidays, et cetera. So we landed on the 45-day number. And then lastly, the category 4, part-time. These are positions that have been deemed necessary only on a part-time basis. So part-time meaning minimum of 20 hours per week, maximum of 32 hours per week. These employees would not have to report to an office with any sort of regularity unless otherwise agreed to with their manager. So I failed to mention at the beginning, and apologies for that, but our current policy is between 2 and 3 days of reporting to the office. And so that's why we wanted to kind of put these new categories in place that put a little bit more structure around the telecommuting. So we put these other rows in this table to kind of clarify for staff and obviously for the committee and the board as well, but how these different categories would work. So a common question is about travel and lodging. So for regular travel and lodging, travel and lodging reimbursable for regular business. That should say, travel and lodging for regular business should say yes, right?
Reimbursable for regular business. All of those should be yes. Yeah, all of those should be yes.
Right. So
Right.
Apologies. Yeah. So the point there being, so I'm sorry. This is where we want to clarify. So for travel and lodging for regular business, meaning if you live in Connecticut and you have to report to the Hartford or Stamford office, you don't get your travel reimbursed. But if you are traveling for a meeting, an event, or a conference, in any of those categories, you would get that travel reimbursed. Apologies. So the only difference on the regular business is for folks in category 4, part-time. If they are required to come into an office in any capacity, they could get their travel and lodging reimbursed for just regular business if pre-approved by their manager. For all staff, though, so for example, me, I'm based in the Hartford office. I live in Connecticut. If I had to attend a meeting somewhere, within Connecticut, I could get that travel reimbursed per our standard reimbursement process. So that wouldn't change. So it's mainly just clarifying that folks that are in the part-time category, they could get their travel and lodging reimbursed if pre-approved. The other 2 clarifications around eligibility for both the director level and for the senior staff level. So all 4 of these categories are eligible for promotion to the director level. But for the senior staff, so our senior leadership team, all categories are not eligible. So essential in office and workplace flexibility, categories 1 and 2, those are eligible for senior staff. Category 3, the hybrid workplace, where you're reporting 45 days per year, that is eligible for senior staff based on position. And so that would be dependent on what the role is. And then category 4, the part-time employees are not eligible for part-time work. The part-time positions are not eligible for placement on senior staff. The other note on category 3, the hybrid workplace, we wanted to make sure, we're not expecting a majority of staff to request to be placed in this category, but we are putting a parameter of 15%, a maximum of a 15% limit on that category. So no more than 15% of the Green Bank staff, which right now equates to about 9 employees, could qualify for placement in that category at any given time. Any questions on telecommuting?
Maybe just a couple of quick points. On the director level, as you all know, any director level position or above has to be approved by the board. Anything lower than the director level, as long as it's consistent with our staffing plan, I can review and approve. Staff can develop, Eric develop the position description, and I can review and approve them. But director level and above have to be approved by the board, which has been our common practice. And then the eligible for senior staff, just so you know, like senior staff, we meet once a week. These are generally staff members that are director level and above, not all of them, but that have a very strong vested interest in the delivery of the comprehensive plan reviewed and approved by the board, and oversee and supervise a number of staff within them. So we meet once a week. We're constantly updating each other on how we're making progress to targets within our comprehensive plan, as well as managing our human and financial resources to that effect as well. So that's just the kind of definition of senior staff versus director level.
So have you gotten, I'm sorry.
Sorry, John. I was going to comment on, I think this is a very well thought out plan for the telecommuting struggle that we've kind of find ourselves in as employers. So I think this looks great. I'm in approval of it if we get to a point where we need to vote. Sorry, John.
No, not at all. My question was, have you gotten any like kind of resistance from anybody about the changes? About the policy?
We haven't rolled this out fully to staff. I think that there's been some, I would just say, the usual level of friction from staff just with the current policy, which is why we felt the need to clarify things. It's not that people are making outrageous demands, which is one of the reasons we felt that we were directionally in alignment with where we should be. But this is I think we've had some questions, and this just allows us to put structure around things.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you're gonna always run into people feeling like they're not being treated fairly based on their position, and where they are going to fall into one of these categories. But I think this is very fair, well thought out. And, you know, the other alternative is that everyone has to show up every day. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I agree that there's always going to be like a sort of a normal level of friction. But if it, if it's an abnormal level of friction, then there's something wrong in the communication chain. That's all. So you're saying that you haven't gotten a lot of blowback on this.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Not on telecommuting thus far. I mean, and as we roll this out, I think we'll do so in a way to be as clear and inclusive as possible to make people aware of what the policy is.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that in general, America is going through this right now, right? We had a period of the pandemic where everybody was told to stay home, and then afterwards, a lot of companies have had this. I know that UTC is dealing with this right now about okay, come back to work, and people are like, what do you mean? Like I can't work in my pajamas anymore? You know, so it'll be interesting to see the impact on the organization. I think that you need to have that, um, that contact with each other, not in a virtual way, but actually, being together in order to maintain this incredible sense of mission that characterizes the Green Bank. Um, so I agree with Brenda that this is well thought out, and nothing is ever going to be perfect, but this is seems to be a good plan.
yeah, yeah.
One,
I've leaned conservative over the years as a result of being an employer, and I can tell you, this is very well thought out. And agreeing with John, people are just frustrated that they can't work in their pajamas anymore. So, yeah,
Yeah.
nice job, everyone.
Thank
Cool.
you. I wanted to just add one other note that, so outside of the telecommuting policy, but we still have our standard medical exemption consideration. So if someone did provide something like a doctor's note that would impact their ability to come into the office, we would of course consider that as well.
Well, that's good. I mean, and there's not much more that you can do than that.
Agree. Agree.
Now, we're still without a quorum. Do we have the ability, do we need to vote on any of this, or?
Adrian, are you on the line? No. Okay, I see an 860 number, 227. Yeah, we still don't have a quorum, but that's okay.
Oh,
We
okay.
just can't
Yeah.
vote on a resolution.
All right, well, I'll continue on to the paid parental leave, if that's okay. This is a new policy that we are proposing. But it's one that we've heard feedback on, I think, through employee surveys and other conversations for years now, and we're happy to be bringing to your for your consideration. So this is a new policy that would be Green Bank paid parental leave. So this would enable Green Bank employees to care for and bond with a newborn, a newly adopted, or newly placed child via the foster care process. We're proposing this first paid parental leave policy for the Green Bank, and it will run concurrently with other leave options that Green Bank staff are currently using, namely FMLA, both the state and federal FMLA, the Connecticut paid leave program, and the Green Bank's short-term disability leave. Right now, the Green Bank staff use sort of a hybrid of those leave options. So sort of the FMLA, the overarching sort of job protection of 12 weeks, The Green Bank short-term disability covers a portion of salary, and then Connecticut paid leave does another period of coverage of salary. Though the feedback that we've heard from staff has largely been the process has always felt a little bit clunky, a little bit confusing, and difficult to navigate at a time of lots of new developments, right, with childbirth, adoption, or foster care. And so we're trying to eliminate that burden a little bit, or reduce that burden a little bit, by providing these 8 weeks for any Green Bank employee who's been with the organization for at least 6 months, who's given birth to a child or be the spouse or committed partner of the birthing parent, have adopted a child or been placed with a foster child under the age of 17. We're clarifying that the adoption of a spouse's child is excluded from this policy. And we're looking to provide Green Bank employees with 8 weeks, which equals 320 hours of paid leave. It can be used in hourly increments anytime over the course of the first 12 months from childbirth or the placement of the child, with each hour being paid at 100% of the employee's regular pay. And we just added a note into the policy that says upon termination of employment, any unused parental leave time will not be paid out. This is to clarify the difference between this policy and things like vacation, which an employee can be paid out up to 240 hours of unused vacation time. And to arrive at this policy, we've done quite a bit of research, both with an external HR consultant and just looking around to see what was sort of available, what other employers in Connecticut and nationally are providing. So in Connecticut, some of the major employers sort of range between 4 weeks. So actually they range from 0 weeks of company paid leave up to 12 weeks seems to be kind of on the higher end. Eversource and Avangrid both provide 8 weeks. Other organizations like the Hartford, Cigna, Collins Aerospace, 8 weeks, Aetna, 12 weeks. And then folks like Sikorsky down to 4 weeks. And on the flip side, as I was doing more research, some of the large national companies like a Hewlett Packard or Salesforce, they're at 26 weeks of company paid leave. So we're obviously never we're not there, but but it's just showing that every year more and more organizations are starting to add company paid leave, both as an employee benefit, as a recruitment tool, as a retention tool. And so we are looking to propose this as well. And then the other note too of why we're allowing folks to use it over the first 12 months is because employees may elect to continue to do Connecticut paid leave or the short-term disability. But what we were hearing is that when they were, especially new mothers were coming back into the office, they were using their vacation or their sick time accruals to bridge the gap of what something like short-term disability, which covers about 70% of your salary. They were using their own accruals to bridge that 30% gap to get them to 100% payment. And so they were coming back after however many weeks or months and not having any accruals to use for a doctor's appointment for either their baby or for themselves. And so this gives them a little bit more flexibility that we're looking forward to providing if approved. Any questions that I can help answer with on this policy?
So you might have said it. So if someone uses 8 weeks, but they could maybe then use FMLA to add another 8 weeks to it if they wanted, so that they would have a total of 16 weeks off.
So the FMLA is 12 weeks total of coverage. So they could use, but it also, there's the allowance of bonding time. So you can spread it out across 12 months. We're looking to kind of develop a tool with Chris Baisden, our Chief Human Resources Officer, that we share with Connecticut Innovations, to really help staff understand kind of all of the different levers that they can pull for this policy. But from my understanding, the 12 months of, there's a caveat of FMLA of 12 months of bonding leave, which would kind of protect you over the position over 12 months, and that you can kind of tap into for leave as needed. But these,
Okay.
that's why we were thinking of using, or we're proposing rather, this policy to be allowed on an hourly incremental level, or hourly incremental basis, so that you can kind of plug it in as needed and not say you can only take it in, 8-hour increments.
So the other question that I have is, what would it take to move in the direction of 12 weeks, being in line with some of the other corporate entities that was on the other slide?
I think honestly, it would just be up to the board. I think some of the we're out front a little bit on this. I mean, we're the first quasi that's coming out with our own parental leave policy. The state of Connecticut has no parental leave policy aside from directing employees to use disability insurance or disability and now paid leave.
Okay.
So we felt that 8 weeks was a little bit. We realize it's on the lower end, but we erred to the side of being conservative. We did run this by Tom Flynn on the ACG committee for his review just before we said, this really should go to BOC. And so his feedback was 8 weeks is what he sees a lot in the private sector. He's good with that. As we go higher in the amount of leave, he's going to come back with another round of questions. So I think 8 weeks could be a starting point, and we can benchmark that and review that. And that's something that we can do as part of the compensation study, because we are asking those consultants to review our benefits to look at to get a view on total compensation.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And my final question is, are you being a little bit more intentional in reaching out to dads about taking advantage of paternity leave, that this isn't just for moms?
I think we certainly can make sure that everybody is aware. I think that our staff that have had kids, especially the dads, even including me, we've all taken time, and I think that they're eagerly awaiting this or something in the space just as much as the moms.
That's great.
If I'm just as a process question, if I'm an employee and I've got a question about this, do I go to HR? How does that work?
You can go to HR. So Joe, myself, or Chris Basden. We're really, a lot of this started because our existing policy, or our existing lack of a policy and dependence on short-term and long-term disability is beyond confusing. And we were trying to put some clarity in the handbook and create something that was succinct and could be used as a guide for employees. And in trying to do that, we realized, we really need a better policy. And what we have here is so person specific. So I think, people can come to us. We hope to get this Excel tool developed so people can put in what their leave balances are. And this should work like any of Bert's more complex financial models for optimizing returns or optimizing risk. We can optimize use of leave.
Although it should not be as confusing as some of Bert's Bert's deals.
That's the goal, John.
I just I'm thrilled by this. When I was working at Pratt and in the shop, they didn't have anything for fathers, and mothers was the line that from Human Resources was that we treat pregnancy like any other illness. And that was an improvement from before that. They had a policy that if a woman became pregnant, that she had to quit, and she was considered ingravidus, and she had the ability to apply for a job when she came back, when she was ready to come back, but she didn't have any right to it. And I think that we reaped uh, the short-sightedness of all of that. And so, the idea that dads have 8 weeks is really great. So, I also, I'm aware, as I think that you all are, that, as much as we want to have the best policies possible, that there is this tension with not just the public, but the legislature about, uh, what, are they, is this a cushy deal, type of thing. And so I think this avoids that.
Cool. Well, Brenda, any other comments on your end?
No, I just want to commend you all for, again, taking the time to look at benefits and that will make you more competitive as an organization, but also make people feel whole and be able to balance family and work.
Cool. Well, thank you both for your feedback here. Recognizing we don't have a quorum still, I would like to bring this to the board, speaking to your having reviewed this and positively viewing it. So something just short of a recommendation.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that, at the meeting, if we can speak to it, so, I think that all this stuff, like, as I said before, it goes to preserve and to extend that sense of community um, within the agency, and therefore allow that sense of mission to continue to develop without too much of background cynicism that comes when the workplace becomes too separated from the needs of the employees. So I think you've done a good job, as good as you possibly could do without having a union representing your employees.
John, just well said. Like, maybe at some point, Joe, we could send to the board a recording of our monthly staff meetings. We have a monthly staff meeting where in the last 15 minutes, we have a section called A Planet Protected by the Love of Humanity, where all our staff members get to share what's happening in their lives with pictures and family and all those sorts of things, exactly to your point, which is
That's great.
We're in it together. And, so yeah, it's exactly to your point. It's really a beautiful emotional part. Joe and Eric, really pull all that together. I feel like within the last year, it's just great. You leave those meetings feeling really good together. And it's a part of being at this together.
Yeah, well, and I think that's ultimately, and not to get too specific, because I know it's a team effort, but ultimately that generates from the top, and your leadership on this stuff, Brian, is just It's just excellent. Because at the end of the day, the Green Bank does stay so intently focused on the mission and gets so much done. I don't know of any other state agency or quasi that just like operates so efficiently and is able to adjust and pivot as needed as you all. So I'm just thrilled to be associated with the bank.
Thank you for that. Likewise.
Same here. Is there any way that we can maybe do this via electronic vote, like email vote?
No, we can't under public, open meeting laws.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I don't expect that there's going to be any, at the board level, I don't expect that there's going to be any resistance. It's just, I'm disappointed to not be able to have the committee, say that we reviewed it as a full committee. So.
Same here, but things pop up at the last minute, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
I was glad to at least be a part of the full presentation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, do we have anything else, or do we want to show pictures of our families now?
I have photos of my dog ready and available.
Well, there we are. Well, I'll just
Oh, and
share.
the family too. Yeah, I forgot
I'll
about
share that my wife and I bought a house.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so it is like I wouldn't recommend for two 71-year-old people to buy a house is not like the smartest idea, but we were actually forced to do it by circumstances, and so since we're having to do it, it's become very exciting. So I'll have pictures at some point.
Where's the house,
Fantastic.
John?
It's when you leave, I live in East Heartland, which is up in the boonies, up by the Mass border. If you go out of our driveway and you count to 45, you're pulling into the driveway of our new house. So, which is not a new house, but so we're still up in the boonies.
Well, I've just added a photo of my kids showing at the Biggie.
No, that's great.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, well then I guess motion. Well, when don't do motions, but I guess adjournment is always in order. And if we don't have anything else, then I'd recommend that we just say farewell until next time.
Farewell until next
Goodbye,
time.
all.
Thank you.
All right.
Good
Good work,
Brenda.
folks, and a pleasure to see you. And we'll we'll see you at the board meeting.
Take care.
Nice. Thank you, John.
All right, take care, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.